Welcome to the Chassan and Kala Shmooze you wish you had but never got. About 6 years ago, for the folks at Guard Your Eyes, I recorded a number of shiurim. These were just audio shiurim, which I called the Chassan Shmooze you wish you had but never got. And over the years, many people listened to it. Baruch Hashem, it was a big chizuk for me that people from all over the world, even today, still email me and tell me that they listened to this year. And now it's 6 years later, and I think that the world has changed a lot. Even more so, there's like everything that we talk about in Yiddishkeit and in mysticism, that whenever a koach comes into the world, it has a good potential and a bad potential. We certainly live in an age of a lot of information. And even in the last 6 years, the proliferation of information and information about sexuality, both harmful and helpful, has geometrically increased. And the number of people learning about sexuality and about religious Torah experiences of sexuality through video and other online social media has also increased. And this is why it's important that we have some kind of clear, sane voice. And when I originally recorded those shiurim, I was much more reluctant to be graphic, to be explicit. Concerns about tznius it prevailed, and yet the world is a very different place. Many people have published their memoirs describing their experiences. There are TV shows describing people's experiences of difficulty with aspects of sexuality and Torah life, situations where they felt that they were abused, situations where not only did they feel they were abused. We read in the papers and in online media about leading figures, whether they're leading political figures or they're leading Torah figures, who have got wrapped up in sexual peccadillos. And we know it's just a very different world. And so today, I'm going to say things that I didn't say in 2014. The goal remains the same. The goal is, in this series of discussions, is to talk about the things that you really need to know. Because the problem is that there are so many things that are meant to be conveyed from teacher to student. As a culture that exists so much with books, and now beyond books, we exist even with online, with videos and other social media, we don't understand what it really means. Torah Shabbal Peh. We don't understand that. You're taught in yeshiva, you're taught in Beis Yaakov, whatever, you're taught that, there's two Torahs. There's Torah Shebeksav and there's Torah Shabbal Peh. But you're not taught what that really means. You're not taught what's the point. What's the point? And even more, what's the point of a Torah Shabbal Peh that ultimately was allegedly written down? The answer is, and this is something that is fundamental and profound, and it is difficult to even convey, to even fully convey what I'm trying to get across. But I will try, because you have to think differently. You have to forget a lot of the stuff that you learned in order to really understand this. All law, it's the fundamental principle of law. Just like water freezes at 32 degrees, and it's a liquid, and other things are a gas. Law itself, the function of law, doesn't matter whether it's Torah law or it's constitutional law. Law is a thing. Law is a universal. The function of law and the way law works is it is oral. You're going to say, what do I mean? I'll give you an example. You're driving along the highway, and a police officer sees that you're going 8 miles above the speed limit. Now, does he pull you over or does he not pull you over? He knows the law is that the speed limit is 55 miles an hour. He knows that he has a duty, or I should say she as well, there are plenty of women police officers out there, that they have a duty to maintain and uphold the law. How do they decide at that moment to pull you over or not pull you over? They are not looking it up in a law book. It's a judgment call. That is what it means. Law in its function is oral. It's impossible for the law to fully capture itself in text. Now, this is not a small thing that I'm saying over here, because that's just regular, ordinary, everyday halachas, and like I said, even secular law. Then when you're dealing with dvarim ha'omdim berumo shel olam, when you're dealing with the most profound, the most important functions of life, the greatest joys of life, the greatest drive, sexuality, procreation, marriage, family, when you're dealing with that, the amount of nuance and the amount of detail that needs to be conveyed, it is simply impossible for it to be in the text. And as much as Chazal made concessions to write down Torah Shebaal Peh, they never could really capture it. Torah Shebaal Peh is like a picture of somebody running. Now, when you see a picture of somebody running, your mind has an idea that that person must be running. And we imagine what they were doing a minute or two before and what they were doing a minute or two after, because we see a picture of somebody running. But all it really is a snapshot, a moment in time. It is not the thing. It is not the running. It is not the isness of running. When you look at a halacha inside in a sefer, and you're not engaged with a rebbe, with a teacher, and you are not engaged in the study and the delving and the understanding of Hashem's Torah and truth, all you are getting is a photograph. You are getting a split second in time that's a representation of what the halacha might be. Even the word halacha means the way to go. Right? Torah is teaching. Okay? Teaching may be possible. Torah is teaching. That's the word Torah. But halacha is the way that we go. That is a moving target. And so there's so much to say in these next lectures. And today we're just going to serve as an introduction. But I'm going to tell you what the plan is. And I'm going to tell you, and I ask you to please listen carefully and to listen to them in sequential order. Because as much as I could try to convey the nuance and the beauty of the Torah itself, I can't really do that because it still is going to be oral. And so anything I say over here, these are not piskei halacha. I will do my best to give you information, and I will try as best as I can to show you sources so that you can go from there and be able to study. But this is not something that can be represented as the halacha. I also ask that you do your best to listen carefully and to listen to it sequentially, meaning one lecture after another, because I'm building ideas just like this fundamental principle of explaining to you what Torah Shebaal Peh really is, what the orality of Torah is, the nature that it cannot be captured and it cannot be given over in writing or even in one talk. That's an important thing I want people to hear. So I'd like you to hear it in order. You know, the Rambam in his Maimer on Tchias HaMesim says that it is very, very easy to be misunderstood. And he says, in fact, even Hashem himself, one of the greatest verses in the Torah, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, has been misunderstood by some to chas v'shalom imply that there's more than one God, because it says Hashem Elokeinu. And he's not kidding. He's trying to say that the minute something becomes text, it's open for misinterpretation. So I just want to do a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about over these next few discussions and tell you what's in store. First of all, just to know, the material that I'm going to be presenting to you is going to be based on 3 books, actually, that I was zocher to write, along with some of it with my wife's help. The first is a sefer, which is in Lashon Kodesh. It's called Eis Lifrosh Ve'eis Le'ahov. It is a sefer about shalom bayis and sexuality. If anybody wants that, you can email me for information about that. My email is simchafeuerman@gmail.com. You could look that up fairly easily. Some of it is also based on the book Marriage 911, which is available through Israel Bookshop and also on Amazon. Um, I wrote this with my wife, and it has many tips, very practical tips on how to improve your marriage. The third is a not publicly published manuscript, which is loosely based on this information, although in writing it's less specific, which is called the Chassan Shmuz You Wish You Had But Never Got. It's available for purchase in a downloadable PDF, which, if anybody's interested, they can email me again for more information on that. And the effort is going to be to first of all cover the basic ideas of what it means to be married. What is the Torah ethic about marriage? We're going to discuss sexual pleasure according to Torah views versus abstinence and abnegation. What does the Torah really expect? Because there are many contradictory views. So we'll discuss sexuality. We'll discuss sexual pleasure. We also are going to discuss the idea of how to make your marriage better. Briefly, certain types of challenges. We are going to get into also sexual dysfunctions, such as premature ejaculation, delayed ejaculation, anorgasmia, which means people can't have an orgasm, desire disparities, that means when one spouse wants sex more than the other. We'll talk about nida and trauma, sexual abuse, and hopefully through this we're going to help people find the best way to live and serve Hashem and to be married. I want to conclude with, again, this is very different from the original Chassan Shmuz that I did in 2014, because the world really has changed, and today everything is open, and the boundaries of tznius and modesty have changed dramatically. It's very interesting. Sefer HaChasidim in Taf Shin Aleph, that's 1101, it mentions the idea that the Jews can't really help themselves, but they begin to take on the characteristics of whatever their host nation is. And for better or for worse, we're in a country that has a lot of freedom, a lot of promiscuity. There's what I wouldn't even like to say, but I must say it, porn culture. Men and women have grown up being exposed to pornography, looking at pornography, and we must not let those powers, which fundamentally are about sexuality and love and beauty, we must not let those powers manifest themselves in such a powerful, hurtful, and harmful way. We must talk about the ways in which the Torah wants you to experience sexuality and joy and love and marriage. And so that will be the goal. And stay tuned. I hope to continue this, Ezras Hashem, day after day, until we complete the full curriculum.